What's going on, guys? It's Ross here at Shy Sports Ross, back with another question and answer video where I went on Twitter and asked my followers to send me questions, and now I'm going to answer them right here, not scripted, totally just off the top of my head. So make sure to follow me at Shy Sports Ross on all the social media platforms to see when I'm looking for questions for a video like this, and make sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let's just dive right into it. Our first question comes from Mocha Ginobili. The question is, what constitutes a failure for this season? Not moving Zach or DeMar, missing the playoffs. It's kind of a loaded question, but it's an important one because I think this season is very pivotal with regards to their strategy, right? Rebuilding, retooling. We talked about this a little bit in the last video. What the plan is for the future, because you do have DeMar expiring this offseason. You do have Zach LaVine out in the trade rumors every single offseason. So the question then becomes, what's actually going to be the next move? Are we going to continue to build around DeMar as a veteran leader? Are we going to continue to build around Zach and DeMar as a dynamic duo? So long story short, what constitutes a failure for this season? I think not picking a direction, right? Not making a decision whether the future of this team is going to be a rebuilding core, whether the future of this team is going to be, going all in to make some trades for another star potentially. You got to pick one side. You can't keep doing the 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing. So I think a failure for this season is just not picking a direction. If you want to go all in at the trade deadline, you want to try to trade for one of these disgruntled stars out there, there's quite a few. Pascal Siakam is looking for a trade. Apparently DeJounte Murray's looking for a trade. You might be able to get Donovan Mitchell even. There's a bunch of players out there that are in trade rumors right now. So if the Bulls want to actually make a finals run and make a championship contending team, they have to go out there and they have to make some trades. They have to acquire some picks, or they have to trade future picks for a player, kind of like what they did with Nikola Vucevic a couple years back. That's a risky proposition and one that I'm not totally a fan of. The flip side of that is rebuilding, trading Zach, maybe trading DeMar too, trying to get some picks back and rebuilding around a young core. I think the failure would be if you run it back and you go with continuity one more time, because clearly continuity, the best it's going to get you with this current core is maybe a play-in appearance. Maybe, at best, a play-in appearance. Is that really the best that we can do? Is that the best we want to strive for as fans of this team? We want to see an actual overhaul of the culture, of the young developmental talent on the team, as opposed to, just throwing a few more draft picks to the wind, see what sticks. So failure to me is to not make a decision at all. Our next question comes from DNVCC. You're looking at potential here, asking, do you believe Coby White can be a #1 option on a contending team? This is an interesting thought. I think it's too early to tell still. We've talked about Zach and kind of how we've somewhat given up on the dream of him being the #1 guy on a contending team. Coby White in his current, Coby White currently, no, he's not there yet. But I don't want to take that away from a young player who could still develop into that guy. I think the future for Coby White really does look like more consistency. If he wants to become an all-star on a consistent basis, he has to play that kind of stretch that we've been seeing from him lately, the 25, 26 points per game Coby White off really efficient shooting. That's the kind of star player that could one day, be a #1 option on a contending team. I think today there's still a little bit too much inconsistency. There's still a little bit to be desired on the defensive end, but eventually one day Coby White does have that kind of star power and potential, I think. It all really just comes back to, how he continues to develop and the kind of player he grows into. Is he going to be a pass first point guard? Is he going to be a shoot first point guard? I think the jury's still out on that. I don't think we know for sure the kind of style that he's going to be long term. Because he's still such a new player to being this good, I think is the way that I look at it. He was coming off the bench last season. He started some games, but even when he was starting, it wasn't quite the level that we've seen this season. So this is all still pretty new to Coby. I think he's still feeling it out. But in terms of being a #1 option on a contending team, I don't think we're quite there yet. As much as I would love to throw labels out like that, it's definitely a possibility. I don't want to take it away from the guy. It's not sure that we're quite there yet. Trading for a current star. Okay, here's a strategic question from Santo Ku. Would it make sense if the Bulls trade for a current star to mix in with their young core, or do the Bulls trade for young guys and role players / picks to build upon in the future? I kind of answered this earlier in my in one of the previous questions, but I'll talk about this in a little more depth here. I think it makes more sense right now for the Bulls to build and invest in a young core, because I don't think that this team and its current roster construction, the way it's built with Zach, DeMar, and Vooch, I just don't think that that's a championship contending core. It's just the truth, you know. These are players who have been to the playoffs before in their careers and historically have not succeeded very well. You know, it's not something that I'm trying to keep throwing those like labels out, like Vooch is a bad playoff performer, DeMar is a playoff choker. I understand that those are kind of stereotypes and tropes that have been thrown around for years at this point. I'm not trying to, you know, rehash any of that. But the problem is, historically, these players have not had success at that level. And if we want to talk about potential for contending, potential for even just a second round appearance, I just don't think that this team currently has a lot of potential for that. I think you have to overhaul. And if you're going to overhaul, you're not going to be able to trade, you know, Zach and DeMar for a superstar. There's no team out there that wants to take a package on them. It's just not feasible. So the real path forward then is to kind of strip the team and to go piece by piece. You know, you trade Zach and you see what you can get. Look around and see what you could get for DeMar. Maybe even you look around and see what you could get for... I think truly that is the right way forward for a team that has not been able to pick a direction. You know, that's kind of what the previous answer was about, picking a direction. That's what they need to do. They need to pick a direction and they need to stick with it. And unfortunately, I think the direction of adding another star to potentially take us over the edge, I just think it's a little too late for that. I don't think that this team has that kind of firepower to be able to expect, you know, one more player to come in and make that difference. And not only that, they just don't have the assets to go out and get a star player like that anyway. You know, if you're going to trade Alex Caruso or Patrick Williams, you're going to be trading a core part of what could be your developmental young core for the future. And that's risky. That's a really, really risky thing to do. So when I look at like Patrick Williams and Coby White and even Alex Caruso to a certain extent, you know, I think I want to keep those guys around. I don't want to see them get traded away for picks right now. Or see them traded away in part of a big deal for another star player who might end up not doing as much as we thought they could for this team. It might not move the needle as far as we thought they would. So it's a risky idea, one that I feel like the odds of it working out in favor of us winning a championship are very low. So that's why I end up going back to rebuild. 9 times out of 10, when I go through this in my head, that's the conclusion I end up with. All right, our next question is about Dalen Terrys from @DalenScary. So just a tiny bit of bias on this one, but they're curious about what is Dalen's future. It's always exciting to talk about the potential of young players, but I think here for Dalen, which I've talked about this in my previous video, which you guys should definitely go check out, which is kind of an in-depth deep dive on Dalen Terrys' game. But in terms of the future of Dalen, I think that he has a potential to be a really, really nice role player in this league for years to come, as long as he can keep playing with high IQ and with consistency. I know that I keep bringing up that consistency thing, but for a young player, that really is the biggest way for them to get minutes, right? They can flash every now and then, but if that's only happening once every 5 or 6 games, it's going to be really hard to justify giving them consistent minutes within the lineup. So if you're Dalen Terrys and you're looking at all these opportunities to come in, he has been efficient when he's gotten the opportunities. He has shown out in certain ways he hasn't as well. There have been some rocky moments, and you know, even in recent games we've seen that when Zach has been back. Since Zach has been back in the starting lineup, Dalen maybe not looking the best off the bench. So definitely some questions to be asked there about what it is in terms of development and what's going on from the coaching perspective. How can they put him in positions to best succeed? You know, what game situations can he go into and help contribute the most? I think he's really helpful from a rebounding perspective and from a defensive perspective. He'll give you good minutes on the defensive end. Offensively, that's where things can be a little more up and down. Sometimes he takes bad shots, sometimes he rushes shots. That's something that a young player has to get better with. We've seen that kind of growth and development with Patrick Williams, and even some of the pain points with that, sometimes not looking as good as we want it to look. So I think for Dalen, the biggest thing is just being consistent, is when he gets those minutes to put some good minutes together. Eventually, you know, I don't think Dalen is going to be that superstar or that star player one day. I think that his ceiling in the NBA is being like a really high-end role player, a really nice high energy guy, maybe even a 6-man off the bench one day. But for now, definitely just need to see him put some consistent minutes together, because when he gets those minutes, we're going to need him to perform. Usually it's in the place of someone who's injured or in spot minutes when someone's in foul trouble. All right, our last question here for today is from @Matthew with a few underscores. Have you seen enough to want to build around Coby? I think I have, dude. Honestly, I feel like with Coby, the kind of player that he's blossomed into is a very team-friendly player. I think he's an easy player to build around. The things that he's good at are the things that you desire in a player, right? He's smart from three. He's able to drive the lane. He's a playmaker. He'll give you good minutes on defense. So I think the big thing with Coby, again, goes back to consistency and just making sure that, is he really going to be that 25 points per game player night in, night out? Is that something that he can do on a consistent basis? I personally say yes. I'm ready to build around Coby. I think that Coby has a very bright future in this league, and I think it's in the Bulls' best interest to keep nurturing that and fostering that growth. Guys like him are the kind of players that you want the Bulls to draft, that you want the Bulls to luck into in the draft. He's just already here, he's already developed. He's already the player that we need at the point guard position here today. That's not to say that Coby doesn't come without his weaknesses. There are definitely things that in his game he struggles with at times. When he's cold from three, he can struggle to find ways to be productive within the game. That's something that I'm looking for him to take another step with this season, is that, when his shot isn't falling from three, which lately it has been, so there's not a lot to complain about. But every now and then he does have his cold stretches. So when he has those cold stretches and that shot isn't falling, what else are you doing to positively impact the offensive game? How are you getting your teammates involved? How are you switching your game up? How are you getting to the lane? How are you getting to the foul line? Like, how are you going to score when that 3-pointer isn't dropping? And I don't think that he's bad at that. He has crafty moves at the rim. He's able to draw fouls. He's one of the best free throw shooters on the team. So not too concerned about his ability to score points. It's more just, when that 3-pointer isn't falling, can he still get you double-digit points? Can he still be one of the top scorers on the team, if he's not doing it from 3-point land? That's the question. So I think that's the answer that we want to try to find through the rest of this season, is how much higher can Coby take this thing? With each passing game, it seems like he shows us something new. As I'm recording this, just last night, it was the game against the Warriors, and Coby, right before halftime, he was just absolutely lighting it up from three, but then he went cold in the second half, and we didn't see as much from him in the second half, and the Bulls ended up losing that game. So I think that's an opportunity right there for growth. That's an opportunity where continue that hot streak from that first half. They're going to switch up the defense on you in the second half, Coby. They're going to put Steph Curry on you. They're going to trap you. What are you going to do, to get out of that? How are you going to positively impact the game when they're coming at you with different defensive looks, when they're trying to get the ball out of your hands quickly? How are you going to make the right read? How are you going to get to the free throw line? What is it exactly that you're going to do to positively impact the offense when the defense is specifically keying in on you? I think that's the next step for Coby, is to really take that step and really take over as the guy to build around. He has to actually look like the guy in those late game situations. And that also calls for, taking some late game shots, taking some clutch shots. I think that's on the coaching staff. That's on Billy Donovan to draw up some late game plays for Coby White. That's on DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine to identify when he's the hot hand and get the ball to him. But that's another part of his growth story. That's another step in his trajectory, is being the guy late in games. So all in all, to answer the question, I do think that Coby is worth building around, but we do still need to see some more of those things in his game to really feel confident about that going forward. Well, that is it for answering questions today. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit like and subscribe. Make sure to follow me @ShySportsRoss on all the social media platforms, and we will talk again very